We've got to try to create an electric car company. But it wasn't as though in creating these companies that we thought that we would be successful. I thought that the most likely outcome was failure.
First of all, I really need to give some thought to how can I provide advice that would be most helpful, and I'm not sure I've given enough thought to give you the best possible answer, but I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to, a natural human tendency is wishful thinking.
There are many more ways to fail than to succeed. Particularly for a rocket, there's 1,000 ways to think and fail, and one way it can work. But I do think that one great thing about Silicon Valley is that failure is not a big stigma. If you try hard and it doesn't work out, that's okay. You can learn from that and do another company, and it's not a big deal.
Originally, what I started doing was not creating a rocket company, but actually was going to do a small mission to Mars, which was just a philanthropic mission where The reason people aren't as excited about space is that we haven't been pushing the frontier as much. And so you can only watch the same movie so many times before it gets a little boring. And in the 60s and early 70s, we were really pushing the frontier of human spaceflight.
Space is hard, and rockets tend to fail, unfortunately. And even when you've got a lot of really smart people working super hard to minimize the probability of failure, it's still there, and it's quite significant. Everything has to work the first time. You can't do a recall, you can't patch it. It's 9 minutes to orbit, or it's over. If there's any error between the simulation and reality, and there's always some amount of error, then that can result in a failure.
2008 was brutal. Yeah, 2008 we had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon 1 rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise. And I got divorced. That was rough. Man, living in scar tissue there.
I think in general, people want to do the right thing and they want to do what's good. The issue we have right now is the rules fundamentally favor the bad outcome. So when you're fighting for the good outcome and it's an uphill battle, it's just slower.
For SpaceX, the first 3 launches failed. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket. The good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
The government is the setter of rules. The government decides what rules companies will play by. And if we currently have a system which massively incents bad behavior. So even if most people don't do the bad behavior, some people will still do the bad behavior.
A challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? That is a really difficult thing. Can you tell the difference between those two things? So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100 hours every week.
Money's mostly an information mechanism for labor allocation and tells companies what to do. So this is why it's so critical that actually be taken at a government level, because the government is the one, they're setting the rules of the game, and it's just crazy to have the rules of the game favor a bad outcome.
If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
$30 or $40 million left in 2008. I had 2 choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the 2 companies. Split it between the 2 companies, then both might die. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, and building something, it's like a child. It's which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the 2. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.
It is time to go forth, become a star-faring civilization, be out there among the stars, expand the scope and scale of human consciousness. I find that incredibly exciting. That makes me glad to be alive. I hope you feel the same way. There are a lot of negative things in the world. There's a lot of terrible things that are happening all over the world, all the time. There are lots of problems that need to get solved. There's lots of things that are miserable and kind of get you down. Life cannot just be about solving one miserable problem after another. That can't be the only thing. There need to be things that inspire you, that make you glad to wake up in the morning and be part of humanity.